Hello and welcome to Ananda Permaculture Farm. My name is Manisha and I'm here today with a second episode of rainwater management. Now we had put out a video on rainwater management some time back, so if you haven't seen that, I recommend you watch that first. And today I'm going to answer some of the questions that were raised by you in response to our first video. So let's get started. Now, one of the questions that I've been asked is that our farm is flooded, it's oozing with water. Can we still do permaculture and do we still need to do water management? My question to you is that you should find out why it is oozing with water. Is it because water has percolated deep down into the subsoil and it's completely saturated, that's why it's oozing out? Or perhaps what you are seeing is just water in the top 15 to 20, 24 inches of soil, and below that water is not percolating. That is usually the case. What has happened is that because of repeated tractoring, our soil has got so compacted that when it rains, the area at the top, which has been tractored regularly, becomes all marshy and you get the feeling that there is so much water here. But the fact is that it's only the top 24 inches which has become marshy and is oozing water, and no water is percolating beneath that. What we need to do is to build the porosity of our soil, because we want the water to get soaked inside. And this can only be done by planting trees. And I'll talk more about that in my next video. But for starters, all I will say is please observe your land carefully. Dig a pit after the rainfall to see whether water is just at the top or it's down at 3 feet and 4 feet as well. A second question that you've asked is how to deal with siltation in our swales and our ponds. Now, a siltation problem is when loose soil or silt upstream of your land gets washed away into your land with the water, and as it flows, it silts up your swales and it silts up your pond. Now, this is a common problem these days because if you look at all water bodies in our country, they're all muddy. Why are they muddy? They are muddy because soil is getting eroded upstream, and that erosion is happening because there are no trees. So with increased concretization and rampant cutting of trees, soil has nothing to hold it in place. So when it rains, the silt is taken with it and it flows downstream. So if the upstream land is in your control, then I would recommend that you plant trees in that area. If you have a water body which is flowing through your farm and that is what's bringing the silt, make sure you line up that channel with water-loving plants like bamboos and grasses, which will also hold the soil in place. Okay, so these are the techniques that you could use to prevent the siltation of your swales and your ponds. As a continuation of this point, you asked me whether ponds should be built upstream and then swales, or swales should be built upstream and then the pond. Well, the answer is that the swales should be built first, because you want the silt to be dropped there before the water comes into your pond. Secondly, if you stop the water in your swales, then it will flow through the soil into your pond, and your pond will always have clear water instead of muddy, silty water. So put your swales first, and then at the lowest point, you should make your pond. If you're living in an arid zone and you're wondering like what kind of rainwater management is she talking about, because we hardly get any rainfall, then the solution for you is to start converting your zone from an arid zone to a well rain-fed zone. And believe it or not, that can happen just by planting trees. I'll talk more about that in my next video, which is around planting trees. But remember, we are actually responsible for the climate that we are creating. And if we plant trees, we can actually change the kind of weather patterns and climate that we are seeing happening around us. Somebody asked me how we built this pond. Well, this pond was built with some thoughtful planning and 4 days of excavation of soil using an earth moving machine. So what we had realized in our property was that we had way too much water coming in from the hills, and a lot of it was leaving our property and going, and that was something we were not happy about. So we decided to build a pond whose dimensions are 85 feet by 100 feet and 15 feet in depth. We marked out this area, it being the lowest point on this side of the land. We marked out the inlet from where the water is going to enter. We figured out where it's going to exit from. We then removed the soil with an excavating machine and refilled the original ravine from which the water used to rush in a very turbulent manner. With that, we blocked that ravine, and now the water would come into this pond, very slowly fill it up over several hours, and then finally overflow to go down into the next pond. We then lined it with a coir liner. This coir liner is 85% coir and 15% polyester. The advantage of using a coir liner is that it stabilizes the slopes in the most natural possible manner. Of course, you could also line it with stone, but that's a much more labor intensive method, and for such a large pond we didn't think we could do that. The coir liner stabilizes the slopes but also allows natural vegetation to emerge and for the natural ecosystem to get created within the pond. So 4 days of effort. I still remember we did this in 2012. There wasn't even an inch of shade at the farm, and it was the month of May. So it was almost 46 degrees Celsius. I took 2 days of leave from my office and I came here, sat on a little stool in one corner and got the entire pond excavated and finally lined up with a coir liner. And then the following rainfall, when we got the rains come in and the pond fill up, it was one of the most joyous sights for me. There was one more question about rainwater harvesting from the rooftops. And this is something we must definitely do. I have not done it till now, but I'm working on a project where I'm actually going to be harvesting my rooftop water. And once that's done, I will definitely share it with all of you. But meantime, try to capture the water from your structures, from the rooftop, into water tanks, which you can use then for drinking and for your personal consumption and other purposes. Now, last question for today's video is that our neighbors use pesticides and their water therefore coming from their properties into ours is likely to be contaminated. What should we do about that? Now look, pesticide contamination is a reality we cannot escape, because wherever we are building organic farms, we tend to be surrounded by people who are still practicing chemical and poisonous agriculture. Now, we are fortunate that we don't have a chemical farmer upstream of us, but if you are not so lucky and you have a chemical farmer upstream, the only thing I would advise is that make sure the water is getting filtered through lots of reeds and grasses and bamboos as it flows into your property. So you can put a layer between their property and yours, which should be a barrier and should be comprised of a lot of plants which can actually clean the water naturally. And then focus on building your soil, and then the organisms in your soil will help to break down these contaminants and purify the water again for you. What to do about clay soils? Will they still penetrate water if the soil is clayey? Well, clay soil and sandy soil both need to be corrected, and the way to correct them is by adding organic matter. So we'll talk more about that in our section on soil management. That's it on rainwater. Once again, I would like to reiterate how rainwater is the most precious resource that we have. Please respect it. Please treat every drop with a lot of value and make sure that you are slowing down, soaking in and storing all the water that's falling on your property. So much from me. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please do subscribe to our channel, give it a thumbs up, and also go back and watch the rest of our videos. So thanks for watching. Bye-bye.